onefootflipper.
Hi, Paige here, the 1 Foot Flipper. How's it going, everybody? I'm doing okay. It is late in the evening, the day after Christmas. Had a decent Christmas, had a decent day. Got a bowling gift card for Christmas, kind of an interesting gift since I can't bowl, but they had food there, so we went there today anyway, and it turns out the food is very expensive at the bowling alley. I mean, once you get a couple of $13 bowling alley burgers, there's not much left of those gift cards, so it worked out. My daughter and I played the world's largest Pac-Man, and what I couldn't believe is that the thing had a joystick with round gates. I know you have no idea what I'm talking about. What are round gates, Paige? Well, normally a game like Pac-Man in which you only go up, down, left, or right, it has a diamond-shaped movement pattern, so it'll glide from up to left to down to right, instead of moving in a circle in which it's hit, in which there's corners. But for some reason, this game didn't have that. And it's ridiculous for this game not to have that, because Namco, the company who makes this game, specifically designed a brand new joystick for the first time they re-released Ms. Pac-Man back in 2001. And that joystick is still in production. But for some reason, they decided, no, let's not use that on this game. Instead, let's go with what is literally the worst American-style arcade joystick still in production. That's the 4-way variant of the Ultimate Joystick. The Ultimate Joystick is anything but the Ultimate. Some fighting game players like them, but I think they're awful. The only thing I could possibly think about is that they wanted to make the game harder on purpose, since they allow for 2-player Pac-Man on the original maze screens. However, they could accomplish the same things in a lot of other ways that didn't make the game frustrating to play. And it's not an exact clone of the original anyway. So the bonus fruit hops around the screen, and the ghost definitely have to have a different movement algorithm just because it has 2 players. And the players don't start in the same positions. Okay, I've already lost y'all. Enough about that. Today, we're going to talk about the realities of some reselling businesses and how, if you scale them up, then you too could manage a 4-figure annual income despite having 6 figures in annual sales. Yes, you too could be on welfare. You too could be waiting in that food line. You too could qualify for that Section 8 housing simply by selecting the right eBay business model. Now, a lot of people have parts of their business model that are just absolute dead weight on the rest of their business. And they never realize it because they just have it all lumped in together. But what would happen if that dead weight was their entire business model? What if you didn't have any $30 Funko Pops averaging out the ones that sell for $6 shipped? What if your entire store was $1.25 trading cards? What if all you had was the $7 shipped records? And in going through this, I'm going to make some assumptions here. I'm going to assume that your general overhead expense is only 6% of your sales. I think that's insanely low in reality. Most are going to have a much, much higher overhead. That 6% is covering everything from your mileage to your equipment costs, to your percentage of the cell phone, the internet bills, attributed to your business, all of that. I know that mine personally is way more than 6%. And I'm also going to assume that you get 100% of your inventory for absolutely free, and it gets delivered to you. All of it. And you get exactly what you want to. Everything is in your category, in your specialty, 100% free. I wanted to show the best possible outcomes for these sales situations. In fact, I'm going to assume that you somehow sell 100% of the items that you list. And I'm also going to assume that you don't have to need any promoted listings to sell these bad items. I'm even going to assume that your eBay store itself is free, although you still pay eBay fees. However, I'm not going to assume free boxes, free packing supplies, or free envelopes. All of these business models operate at scales where you simply cannot effectively dumpster dive all those packing supplies, particularly since most are going to repetitively need the same small packaging sizes over and over again, and you just can't find stacks of identical small boxes or bubble mailers or even poly bags for free. You're going to have to pay for them, and I counted that in. Even if you somehow did get them all for free, the amount of time you'd have to put in would probably be more money than just buying them. So the first thing we're going to look at is that standard envelope seller. I'm going to call these guys card sellers, but it could be cards, stamps, postcards, stickers, patches, any one of a number of flat items that you can send to that envelope for 69 cents. My good friend and yours, Rockstar Flipper, he sells postcards for $1.99 or best offer with free shipping. I am picking him to look at mostly because I picked him last time I touched on this subject. And I'm glad to see that he has increased that price to $1.99 from $1.25, which is where he was at last year this time. But let's see if that's all you did. What if the whole store was that $1.99 free ship card or postcard or patch or whatever it is? First, how long does it take you to list, file, pull, and ship that postcard or similar item? I know with a document camera hooked up to the computer, I can list 50 trading cards an hour, but that's only if I'm doing a stack of cards from the same set of cards and I have the set database open to cut and paste the names for the listings. These databases don't exist for postcards. Even if they did, you would never get them in such a matched way to be able to use such databases. So I'm just going to generously say that you could list 30 per hour of these small flat items if you were really good. And I'm going to somehow assume that it takes you 0 time to file them away. I know from experience the pull and ship rates on these items is normally only going to be about 20 items per hour. And postcards would actually be slower since they don't always have a clear name to reference when pulling them, so you might have to be looking at the photo on your phone while you're trying to find it in the box. However, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt for that and still say you could pull and ship 20 of them per hour. That gets a total time spent of 5 minutes per postcard, or 12 cards per hour total. 12 sales an hour, that's a lot, right? Now let's look at the money. We're getting $1.99 per cards. Our general business overhead is 12 cents. We spend 69 cents on the shipping and another 9 cents on an envelope and the thermal label. We spend 57 cents on eBay fees. Everything here I do on eBay fees is assuming an average level of sales tax, which affects the final value fee. I just went with an average level of that state having an 8% tax. Could be higher, could be lower, but it's going to average out close to that. This leaves us with 52 cents left over from that transaction. The great thing is, though, we can repeat that 52 cents 12 times an hour. In doing so, we can make $6.24 an hour. Although if we account for that pesky self-employment tax, it's $5.29. Stretch that out to an entire year of full-time employment, 40 hours a week, every week, no vacations, no holidays, no sick time. If we ran this business for a full year and everything went 100% perfect under these most ideal of possible circumstances, then we could make $11,003 per year on what would nearly be exactly $50,000 in sales, honestly. But Paige, I'm a go-getter. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be a 6-figure seller. I'm going to sell $100,000 in postcards per year. In that case, you'd have to work 80 hours a week all year, including a couple of days at the end of the year where you work 24 hours a day. And that would sell you $100,000 in postcards in 1 year, and you would make just over $22,000 doing it. Now do remember, you needed somebody to give you 50,000 sellable postcards for free in order to do that. If you pay even 10 cents per card, then suddenly that 40-hour-a-week full-time card seller thing with the 100% sell-through rate, no returns ever, suddenly that makes $9,000 a year instead. Now to be fair, we can look at my own card store. I admit my own card store was a mistake. The time cost, at least listing the lower dollar cards was. The time cost is already sunk in on setting it up, though. And now it is truly a one-in, one-out sales rate, and the items I'm putting in are actually a much higher quality than what's coming out, because I do have a big stash of near-mint garbage pail cards that I'm putting in at a higher rate than my normal rate. I've got months worth of those, and I've got quite a few hats that I'm putting in there too. Those are higher profit items than what's coming out. I promote at about 10%, and I'm going to assume that all my sales will be promoted. If this somehow actually worked as a full-time gig for me, it would pay $35,006 per year after self-employment tax. I'm not sure why these numbers keep coming out to like a certain amount of thousand and then $6, but they keep coming out that way. But Paige, we all know that cards are whack. I buy remote controls and Funko Pops by the Gaylord, and I sell them for $6.79, and all these Gaylords are coming over to my house for free because that's the kind of person I am. You wouldn't believe how many free Gaylords I get. And we say that because every one of these examples requires free merchandise. We're going to look at the light item free ship market. Items that weigh 4 to 12 ounces packaged and have free shipping at $6.79. I chose the price point once again based off Rockstar Flipper's remote controls, just because I already had his store open, not trying to pick on him. To be honest, I've seen cheaper free ship items prices than this from people who make tons of videos. Plus, Rockstar Flipper doesn't watch me anyway. Now, your lightweight free ship item is going to take you about 10 total minutes to process. That means you can process 6 of them per hour. Remember, we live in a fantasy world, so everything sells. Funko Pops, remote control, Christmas ornaments, whatever it is, all of it sells. We're going to count for 39 cents in shipping supplies per item. That consists of a thermal label and a price that I got by averaging the price of a 4x4x4 box with a 6x10 bubble mailer. In the real world, you're often going to end up needing slightly larger boxes or mailers for these items, but we're ignoring that. We're going with best case scenario. As for packing material, I'm going to assume that you're shredding your unpaid utility bills and using that instead of spending any money on packing material. I'm going to go with an average shipping cost of $4.50. It will probably actually be higher in reality unless you're both centered in the United States and almost never have a package over 8 ounces. Going with these numbers, you clear 19 cents an item. Since you can process 6 of these per hour, you can make $1.14 an hour. Stretched out to an entire year as a full-time job, you would make $2,371 for the year. That's with zero cost of goods, with a free eBay store, never giving a single refund. I didn't even count self-employment tax this time because I'm pretty sure at the home office deduction, a few miles, and a few other miscellaneous deductions that you could get that down to zero anyway. So, yeah. But Paige, I'm smart enough not to sell remotes and Funko Pops. I sell records, man. I dig the groovy music. I sell records for $6.99 shipped. There are currently thousands of free ship records at under $7 on eBay. And most free ship record sellers have some in that price range. We don't have to do any math on that at all. Using the cheapest record mailer you can buy and a thermal label at that price point results in a loss of 14 cents per record. So, since that business model plain out loses money, we'll instead look at the worst example in my own store right now. And I have a record in my store right now for $7.98 shipped. At least that's not a dead loss. It ends up being I end up having 60 cents left after making that transaction. With the record having been free and all. And we'll assume I can process 12 of these per hour. Probably not. Records take time to ship. You got to take them apart and look at them and put all the pieces out and make the nice photos. But if I can do 12 per hour total, both list and ship, that means I can make $7.92 an hour. Once we do all that math, I can make $14,002 annually after self-employment tax. Obviously, given this information, I'll be pulling a few inventory items from my store over the next few days. Paige, record sellers are all stoned and stuck in the 70s. I'm smart. I'm an intellectual. I sell books. Books are where the real knowledge comes from. I sell them at the same price point as the records, $6.99 shipped, but they don't need that 75-cent record mailer. They can go in a 10-cent poly bag, and that makes all the difference in the world. Did I mention I have 3 degrees? It does make all the difference. That bookseller of books they got for free that all sell and are never returned makes a 55-cent profit on each book. Books are faster to list and pack than records, so we're going to say we can process 20 of them per hour. That makes for $9.32 an hour selling books, after the self-employment tax, of course. That stacks up to $19,385 a year, full-time selling. These books in that fantasy world where all the books are free, everything sells, and nothing's ever returned. I think once you accounted for the various government assistance that you would probably qualify for at that income level, you could probably live on that with a roommate in a bad neighborhood, probably somewhere close to me here in the Midwest. Paige, I don't need to hear about these booksellers with their wonderwank of diplomas and 12th grade education. I sell the best category on eBay, video games. And I throw all the manuals away so they can ship at the 4-ounce rate. I don't test my games, so I can process 20 per hour. Even though I don't test them, none of them ever get returned, ever. I think we all understand the math I was going through at this point, so we're just going to jump to the end. This video game seller, $22,630 a year salary, full-time selling low-end video games in that perfect world where every single game sells. You get all of them for free, and no one ever returns any of them. What should you learn from this, though? Well, it can teach you that your lowest end items are truly close to worthless to you, if not truly a negative cost, and they should be lotted up or disposed of. Let's look at the example of a video game seller. If, this video game seller who gets these endless free video games, if instead of selling them one at a time, if he instead sold lots of 100 video games for $64 shipped, he could process 3 of those per hour. That's easy. He would instead make almost $250,000 a year. Of course, you can't source 2,400 video games a day for free to do this business model, but you also can't source 160 of them per day for free either. Let's say in real world cost, somehow he gets them 25 cents per game. And he still sold for either $6.99 shipped or $64 shipped for a lot of 100. What then? Well, the person who unloads them in lots of 100 makes $84,000 a year. I've never made $84,000 a year. While the person who sells them one at a time makes $17,000 per year. But Paige, not all of my items sell that cheap, only some of them. Right, you are correct. Those some of them items are dragging you down. Pull them out of your store, lot them up, do whatever. Do the real world calculations on your most common types of items and categories. If a certain price point meets your hourly salary requirement, or if it doesn't, figure out what that exact price point is. Everything below it, don't buy it. Well, either don't buy it, dispose of it, lot it up, do whatever you need to do. Specialists can probably lot items up. Everything sellers may just have to dispose of stuff. Might take you a long time to get a decent video game or Funko Pop lot together if you just garage sale shop. That's up to you. Hey, I'd like to thank you for making it all the way to the end. I think I'm going to have to go pull a bunch of stuff out of my store now and raise my minimum list price point once again.
See, that's One Foot Flipper's nonsense video.
Now that it's just us, my sales up and stopped on Christmas Eve. Since then, I've just sold a handful of cards on my card store, one lot of miniatures, and a Starbucks cup. And the Starbucks cup was on the card store, too. Hope that turns around pretty quick. Anybody else having a post-Christmas plunge? Tell me about it in the comments. Although the one bright side is that we only sell 2 things in 2 days, it only takes 2 listings to fill that store back up.